Alright, ladies and gentlemen, Elden Ring NightReign, or Night Train, like people calling that on the internet, right? So today we're doing the following. It looks like embargo is off, so everybody is shooting these videos about Elden Ring NightReign right now. I think this game could be really some kind of main for me when it will be launched. That's why I need to see your opinion on this game. I need to, look into this game. Like, what is that? Is it Elden Ring or it's a new game? So I don't have my own footage because unfortunately, it's only like number of people who can play the game right now, and what should we do? So I will watch other people videos and react on that. Let's see if this game is for us or not, and let's start right away from the IGN video.
Before we begin, I just need to say that the footage in this video was provided by Bandai Namco, as no capture was permitted during the event.
And here I will stop because IGN, who's still sending the videos to these guys? Everybody knows that IGN is just, you pay them money and they will tell everything that you want. They did so many videos about these inclusivity-focused games, which are shit, and everybody knew that it was shit, that they told us that was good game. So why we need to listen to IGN? And also the guy said that they don't have anything from the game. Let's watch other guy. Let's watch Iron Pineapple. One more time, sorry that I'm just using his video to, showcase my videos, but
recently
we'll do that. So please go and subscribe to this guy. He's brilliant. This video is super long, but it will explain everything that we want from the game. So let's start. Let's go.
Recently, I got the chance to play Elden Ring NightReign early at a hands-on preview event hosted in Vegas.
Okay.
In case you missed it, NightReign is the next game From Software is releasing. And according to them, it's a, quote, co-op action survival game. What is it really?
Survival.
It's essentially Elden Ring remixed into an action roguelike for 3 players, where each run sees you fighting.
Okay, action roguelike, that's something good. Like, you like Elden Ring, right? Elden Ring is a really good game, but the genre itself is not for everybody. It's like try hard bosses and stuff, but the roguelike part and also 3 co-op people thing is good.
Enemies and collecting loot in a shrinking Fortnite-esque circle. When the circle fully shrinks, you're forced into a nighttime boss fight.
Cool.
The game has you fighting Elden Ring enemies and bosses, but you'll also encounter bosses from past Dark Souls games occasionally too, like the Nameless King. If you make it to day 3, you get to fight one of the 8 Night Lord final bosses,
Epic.
and winning here equals a successful run. I was unfortunately not allowed to record my own footage at the event.
Okay.
I was given 17 minutes of B-roll, showcasing a good chunk of the experience.
Okay.
Now, I do have a lot of opinions about my time playing the game, but first let's go over all the footage in sequential order, as I think it paints a pretty clear picture of what to expect from the gameplay loop. I'll interject with my thoughts along.
The main question from my side is why we are doing that. It's like roguelike, okay, I got it. In roguelike, you kind of progress with your character, like for the next runs. If they will have something like that, because you will have few heroes to choose with the special abilities and stuff, if they will have something like that to progress, not just Fortnite match, you end, you have, some scores, that's all. But if you can have progress with your characters, that will be good. So let's see what's the result of the run.
The way and save some of my bigger opinions and critiques for the end.
Okay.
Each run begins with a short cutscene of your chosen Nightfarers walking toward a cliff before running to catch a lift from a spectral hawk. There will be 8 characters to choose from in the full game,
8.
but there are only 4 in the demo.
Okay.
And I'll talk about what each one can do as they appear. Next, you're thrust into the game with
I'm really curious also how we'll choose the characters. Like, if everybody wants to be the mage, we'll have 3 mages, or it's like in MOBA, you need to choose and others can't. That'll be fun.
an aerial view of the map as you glide down on your hawk, kind of like a Fortnite glider, though you don't have control over where you get to land. The game forces you to drop off in the spot it's chosen near the edge of the map. It's pretty odd that you can't choose where to land or influence the flight of the bird, because I think it'd be pretty fun to have more agency over where to start. But hey, that's just me.
Okay.
Also, the text Day 1 pops up on the screen because, you guessed it, it's Day 1. As I already mentioned, the game is split into 3 days, where you explore during the day and fight a boss at night. Each day is somewhere between 10 to 15 minutes long.
10 to 15 minutes long, so each session will be like 30 minutes to 45 minutes, like one more time, like MOBA game. And you have 3 bosses and you have a progression between. All right, that's a good run. It's not like 20 minutes, it's more, but it's a good run.
I didn't time it, but I'm pretty sure it's within that range.
Okay.
Upon landing, you have a few different choices on where to go, but these players chose to go after the nearest enemy camp. something my group often did as well. This also gives us our first look at Wilder, the Strength Dexterity Knight, and his grapple hook ability. As you can see, it pulls small enemies closer, but when used on larger ones, Wilder's launch toward them instead. Each character has one unique ability like this that's on a short cooldown. There's normally a big icon at the
So each character have one unique ability, just normal weapon and gear, as I understand. I saw weapon, I didn't saw gear. And the ultimate ability.
Bottom of the screen that displays the ability and lets you know when it's available to use. Also, this is pointing out the obvious, but it's worth mentioning. This combat is literally Elden Ring. Like the animations, the enemies you're fighting, this is Elden Ring. Ultimately, this makes NightReign feel like an ambitious fan mod for Elden Ring as opposed to a standalone product. And I don't mean that necessarily as a bad thing, but I do feel compelled to point this out because it's pretty core to the experience.
It kind of, you want a little bit more changes in the game, right? So it will be not just the mod for Elden Ring. But from the other hand, one more time, Elden Ring is a cool game. They just changed the mechanic and gameplay, which is hard to do, right? And maybe that will be really fun to play. Like, take Fortnite. It was started as a single player, zombie shooter stuff. But then it became like really hit when they just added the Battle Royale stuff. And then everybody started to add Battle Royale stuff as well. Roguelike, it's a cool mechanic. So maybe that's, if you doesn't care about the Elden Ring, and I don't, maybe that's cool. Yeah, that's a cool game.
After clearing the camp, the group runs toward the near site of Grace. This showcases the new Super Sprint, which is basically the normal sprint at double speed.
Okay.
This is mostly used for traversal because the map is big and Torrent's on vacation. You can also use it during combat, but it's tough to pull off because it'll drain your entire stamina bar almost instantly.
Looks really
anyway,
dynamic.
Run up to the site of Grace to replenish the healing flask and level up. You start each run with 3 flasks, and each site of Grace will refill them all.
Okay.
Sites of Grace are also where you can level up using the runes you acquire from enemies and bosses, just like Elden Ring. However, unlike Elden Ring, there isn't a way to pick and choose stats. Instead, you just click the big level up button, and you'll simply be stronger with extra damage, health, and FP. I'm
Like roguelike, okay.
a little mixed on this, as I think it's a missed opportunity to provide the player with a choice on how to build their character, but it does fit the theme of the game with them wanting to keep things quick and streamlined.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think it's as simple as possible. They need to make it as simple as possible, like roguelike. You don't want to think about what strength or dexterity you need to choose. You just choose some passive abilities or some abilities, right, during the run, and then you just continue that. That's cool.
So maybe it's for the best. Regardless, leveling up is important as the boost in damage from level 1 to level 2 is quite noticeable. More damage means enemies die faster, and in this game, speed is everything. Next, we see the player attack a group of demi-humans, and they do this by throwing a firebomb. So yes, consumables such as firebombs are a thing in NightReign.
Good variety.
And you begin each run with 4 inventory slots to hold different types
one
of
skill
consumables.
and
You can also
4
see that the player
consumables.
broke some glowing crates, which dropped additional consumables for them to pick up.
Okay.
Between your inventory being very limited and finding plenty of extra consumables, you're heavily encouraged to use these whenever you have a chance.
Yeah, look at that. Some of the consumables you can just have like 2 or 1 of them. Some of them are more. That's cool. Maybe they can, you have a lot of variety with the consumables.
After this, the group encounters a golem, and I believe it counts as a mini-boss. Mini-bosses are scattered across the map, and you'll know you're fighting one because a boss health bar will appear at the bottom of the screen. Upon defeat, the mini-boss will drop a purple soul, and this rewards each player with the choice between 3 upgrades.
Okay, so you're killing the bosses, you get the upgrade. Extend spells effect duration for 30%, or Flux slowly restore HP. Okay, cool. So it's basically the roguelike. The thing is, the Elden Ring and Souls-like games, they have the best bosses, right, in all the genres. So you have the best bosses. You also have a really fun mechanic, the roguelike. You combine it, maybe it will be really fun.
Ranging from a new weapon.
The question
to a
will be,
permanent
what will be the
passive
result
boost.
of each
Examples of
run?
the passives I saw were a slight increase to stamina regen or a slight
And will we
increase
have
to damage
progression?
reduction. And to be clear, all 3 players get their own reward from the 1 purple soul.
Okay, good.
This next clip showcases the new wall climbing mechanic. When you press jump while sprinting toward a wall, your character will automatically run up the wall and then mantle over the ledge. This is sick. It adds an additional layer of verticality
Exactly.
to the map.
It should
making
be
it
fast.
fun
It's
figuring out how to
roguelike.
get from point A
Good.
to point B, since sometimes you have to use
That's
the
a
wall
good
climb
decision.
in slightly creative ways. At the top of this church, the player finds some loot on a body and inside a box. Important to note is that all loot you find like this is classified as community loot, meaning that every member of the team can see it, but only one person can take each item. This is also our first look at the different armaments you can find. Each weapon and shield has a built-in Ash of War, and each spellcasting catalyst has 2 different spells. So yes, in this game, the spells you cast cast are attached directly to the catalyst. Each armament also comes with a built-in passive effect, such as extra damage on combo finishers, additional item discovery, or HP restoration upon attacks. These are mostly small background bonuses, but what's interesting is that each of these passive effects applies to your character even if the armament isn't actively being used. As long as it's equipped, you get the effect. This means that you always want to have 6 armaments equipped, especially because equip load isn't something you need to worry about in this game. You'll always be fast rolling. This is also our first look at blue colored loot. This indicates that
Yeah, so they simplify the gearing system. You have as much cool stuff as possible, like in Battle Royale, right? Super simple. And also have so many varieties of these passives in each weapon. And looks like you can change weapon and shield, like whatever you want with your class. You will just still have your ability and ultimate.
it's more rare, and the rarity goes from white to blue to purple to orange. Next, we catch a
Battle
glimpse of
Royale.
the map screen, and this should give you a better idea of the scope of each run.
Okay, the really knowledgeable people about the Elden Ring. This is completely different map, right? We just will have a pieces of the Elden Ring, main map, but this is completely different stuff, as I understand. Comment below, I don't know.
The map itself is an island, and on the edge, you can see the Fortnite circle closing in. Just like Fortnite, instead of constantly getting smaller, there are intervals where it doesn't move at all. I won't go over all the icons on the map, but basically, these show you where most of the points of interest are, like enemy camps or fortresses. You can then pin on the map where you want to go, which is useful because the other players will be able to see your pin and know where you're going. Also worth noting is that some things are hidden on the map, so it's possible you'll find something good even if it's not marked from the start. Between this and the marked points of interest, you probably won't have time to do everything, so you have to make quick decisions on where to go and what to skip.
The question is, the map will be always the same because he didn't tell us that, right? It will not change, or it will change a little bit, like maybe camps or enemies, or if it will be the same all the time, they need to change it like in seasons, like in Fortnite. Otherwise, it will be just boring to do the same stuff all the time because you will choose the same things all the time. The difference will be just when you drop, right? You drop in a different pieces of the map. Maybe that's the thing.
Next, we see Wilder use his grapple hook to get a little extra speed when running around. It's tough to see here, but this use case is also
looks
relevant
dynamic.
during fights.
The movement
Instead
looks
of grappling the
better
boss,
than
it
Elden
might be
Ring.
worth grappling the ground to reposition. We then see Wilder take on another mini-boss, the Leonine Misbegotten, and he initiates the fight with a big fire explosion. This is Wilder's ultimate ability. So unlike the grapple hook, which is on a short cooldown, it's usually a minute or two between uses of the ultimate, and I believe dealing damage increases the speed it fills up. Wilder then lands a critical hit, and this is a good time to point out that some of the weapon animations have been changed. So the Greatsword moveset, for example, is a bit different. It feels a little faster and more aggressive, which is well suited for the faster pace of NightReign. This fight also gives us a look at Wilder's unique passive ability, something each character has.
Well, I think that if the game loop will be fun, and the game will continue or with the seasons or battle passes or something, it actually could have a really big variety of the different weapons, attack animations, dances, like total Fortnite in the Elden Ring universe. And that could be fun actually, new bosses, new stuff.
Once per run, you can cheat death. The first time you get hit by an attack that would kill you, there's a flash of white followed by a quick dodge. The first time it happened, I thought it was some sort of perfect block, but no, it's Wilder surviving an attack he shouldn't have. Finally, Wilder's group shows up.
So it's kind of passive.
Oh no, one of his teammates goes down. So in NightReign, instead of dying immediately, you enter a down state where you can crawl around. Not to keep bringing up Fortnite, but it's like Fortnite. However, unlike Fortnite, to revive your teammate, you actually want to attack them. After dealing enough damage, they pop right back up.
Okay,
the
cool.
HUD for reviving looks something like this in-game. A ring split into 3 equal sections above your ally's
Look
head.
at how cool is design of this mage with the hat and with everything. I mean, Elden Ring doing really proper dark fantasy.
This ring represents how much damage you need to deal to bring your friend back. The first time they go down, only one section needs to be depleted.
Okay.
And each subsequent death adds another section.
Okay.
So it gets tougher and tougher to keep reviving.
What will happen if they will die more than 3 times? It will be just the hard thing all the time, right?
I think this may reset if you don't get down for a while though. You have 15 seconds to get revived. And if your friends fail to get you, you'll lose a level and respawn at the last set of grace you touched.
It's actually a really cool mechanic. You don't need to, press button and just wait. You can hit them and they will be revived. But you also can hit the boss nearby, right? In the same time. Is it working like that?
This won't end a run, but it's still a pretty brutal punishment given how important levels are.
Okay.
Next, we have some footage of another Nightfarer, the Guardian. This bird person is the tank of the cast, with the most HP and a more defensive playstyle.
So that's
Their
tank.
active ability is a whirlwind that knocks small enemies up and staggers big enemies. They also have a special defensive stance they can enter, which seems to significantly decrease the stamina you lose when blocking attacks. This stance is their unique passive trait though, and not an ability on cooldown. So you can use
The problem is you don't have taunt mechanics right here. So the bosses will attack whatever they want. So as a tank, what should you do? No, I don't know. If he has like some kind of passives, which will increase defense or something, it will be cool. But otherwise, you basically defend yourself.
Use it whenever you want. Most importantly though, they have a sick-ass dive bomb ultimate that lets them crash down for massive damage. This also showcases one of the best things about the revive mechanic. You can simultaneously hit enemies while reviving your teammates. And the dive bomb...
I told you. Yeah, that's really cool. But also the animation and stuff, how you dive from the... That's sick.
is probably the best example.
That's what they need. Like in Elden Ring, you lack a little bit of this cool anime style, you know, action, because its action is better. Like you're faster, you have agile, you have parkour stuff. And with this mega, if other classes have something sick like that, because first the knight was okayish, but this one is better.
Example of why that's useful. They don't show it here, but if you keep holding down
Look
the
at that.
ultimate button after landing your dive bomb, you remain crouched down with your weapon in the ground.
That's
and this
sick,
provides
man.
a defensive buff to yourself and
That's
nearby
sick.
allies for up to 10 seconds.
It's like in Final Fantasy 14, they have a class, the spear guys, dragon something. They have all of the mechanics and all those skills are around that. Like they are with the spear jumping and flying to the dragon head. So
you keep holding
cool.
it. I also think you're immune to staggers and take heavily reduced damage while holding the stance. The next clip shows off the Fortnite circle. It takes the form of a blue ring of fire. If you find yourself outside the circle,
actually
you
Fortnite.
slowly take damage over time. Believe it or not, as much as everyone, myself included, keeps joking about the Fortnite comparisons, I think the time pressure this circle adds is one of the more compelling parts of the gameplay loop.
Yeah, that's
Basically, it encourages you to play efficiently.
That's cool.
You don't just want to clear the camp full of enemies, you want to do it fast. And then it makes the moments in between fights interesting too, because you gotta make quick decisions on where to go
Makes
and
sense,
how to
makes
get
sense.
there. This is fun and pretty distinct from playing Elden Ring. Speaking of how to
That's good. That's what they need to do. Like whatever, how it looks, mods. This like it's as a mod, it's a different game. But if the feeling is different, nobody cares. If it's fun and it feels different, nobody cares.
get places, one way to do that is by making use of slipstreams. These function pretty much identically to Spirit Springs in Elden Ring, and they allow you to super jump into the air. These were fun in Elden Ring, and they're still fun here. And it's cool how you can sometimes use them to reach the top of structures they might not have been intended for.
And don't forget, like, the graphics and visuals already good. The details and Elden Ring and all this stuff. But remember the first Fortnite. It was looking like shit. It was staggering. It was bad, but the gameplay was fun. And now Fortnite looks like super beautiful. So what I'm trying to tell you, if the game will be fun and people will keep playing it, they can do so many things with that. It will be bad. It will be different game at some point of time, because with the engines that we have, I think it's Unreal Engine, right? They can do everything. They will import it to Unreal 6, 7, or whatever. So
Up ahead, the group finds a Church of America. If you collect the item,
I'm trying not to be the fanboy, but what I see right now, it's pretty interesting. So I definitely want to try this type of the gameplay. One more time. You like roguelike? It's easy and fun. You like multiplayer with 3 other people. You have strategy element. You have bosses. It could be fun. Different
inside,
characters.
it upgrades the maximum usage for healing flask by 1.
Okay,
Every church
some
like
buffs.
this will have this upgrade, so you can always plan ahead and stop at 1. Next, the group finds a scarab to kill. This is an example of one of the many useful things you can find that might not be marked on the map. These guys always drop a talisman you can equip, and these talismans seem to function identically to how they do in Elden Ring.
So except of this thing, it looks like you'll not have something cool happening, like events happening on the map. So you will just go from one point of interest to another point on interest. Another stuff will be you just run through it. I think that's bad. They need to add some events or something happening between that. Otherwise, it will be boring and with the same things happening on the map all the time. You know where you're going. Because in Battle Royale, they don't do that because you have other players, right? It's PvP. Here you don't. But imagine if they also add the PvP mode. The same mode, but with PvP. It's really hard to make balance, but it could be really fun. Like, okay, developers, that's the best idea from the game developer to game developer,
Passive boost they give can sometimes be substantial. We then have some more camp clearing gameplay, though these enemies are tougher than the ones at the start. This clip also gives us a better look at the Guardian's whirlwind move and how it can knock enemies up.
By the way, the guy who is making this video, that's the first time I'm watching his video. He's pretty good. Super calm, super detailed. Like, you understand everything. Really great job. Please subscribe to him and to me, please.
Significant change from Elden Ring is how enemies no longer get periods of invincibility when knocked down, and this is especially useful for moves like the Whirlwind attack if your teammates follow up. Also, notice how the magic swords of Carry and Phalanx appear over Wilder's head without him casting a spell. I believe this is an example of a passive upgrade he got from a mini-boss. The way this one works is that every 30 seconds or so, these swords will appear over your head for free damage. Next, we get another grapple shot clip. And yes, it can be used to break the guard of an enemy using a shield. The group then finds an underground passage.
So imagine like after a few levels and all these passives, you'll have somebody will have the swords flying, somebody will have other stuff like roguelike proper experience.
Into a treasure room, and this gives us another look at the loot system. Once again, this is community loot, and the players must share. You can also see that there are level requirements attached to weapons. Blue is level 3, purple is level 9, and orange is level 12. Remember, there aren't stat requirements like Elden Ring, and you just have one overall level. If you find a spectral tree, you can summon a spectral hawk to carry you across the map. These follow set paths, and the little floating spirits show you the general direction it'll take you. You can also see the path it'll take you on the map screen. What's cool about these spectral hawks, as opposed to the ones at the start of the match, is that you're given a little control in steering them, and when you want to land, you have more freedom on where exactly you
can choose.
Down. This is also our first look at the third character, the Duchess. She's basically the nimble rogue archetype of the group. The players also find a treasure map on a desk in this fort, and this reveals the locations of more points of interest on the map. Also, this location is literally fort height from Elden Ring, like 1-to-1 copy-paste. Not every location is like this, but some of them are, and it's incredibly trippy seeing iconic areas like the gatefront ruins dropped into this remixed version of Limgrave. I'm not too bothered by this, but this is another example of ripping things straight off Elden Ring, and it plays a big role in this feeling like a well-made fan mod as opposed to a standalone game. Next, we get some proper...
I'm sorry. But nobody cares, actually. Like, you do care if your main game is Elden Ring or Souls-like games. I played Elden Ring, the first chapter, or whatever we called it, the original game. Almost till the end. It was super fun experience, like it. Don't care if the same here. I don't. Like, yeah, maybe you want other stuff, but, you know, like in the Fortnite, they can add different stuff in different seasons. So they use that. I actually don't care. Is it fun? That's the main question.
For Duchess gameplay and a look at her ability, Restage. This replays the damage an enemy or boss just took over the past 2 seconds, and as you can see, it's especially impactful when it's paired with something like Wilder's ultimate. For only being on a short cooldown, this is easily the strongest ability in the game. It's also a great example of co-op synergy and interactivity that usually isn't present in other FromSoft games. This clip also shows an important change to critical hits. In Elden Ring, bosses and enemies are immune to damage from teammates for the duration of someone landing a critical hit. But in NightReign, that's no longer a restriction. However, I think bosses might take reduced damage from other hits during this window, so that's not too overpowered. One last thing to note about this clip, the Duchess's passive gives her a unique quick-step Bloodborne dodge that's noticeably faster than the other dodges. She also gets a cool little backflip if you dodge backwards twice. Check out this dagger moveset, by the way. This is much different than Elden Ring and way faster. Definitely a fan of this change, and I can vouch that it feels great to use. Next, we get to see the Duchess.
So some animations are different, right? So they changed something. They didn't pick up all the animations, all the mechanics, because some of them are working pretty well, but some of them, they tried to make everything more faster, you know, more like dynamic.
This is ultimate, which applies invisibility to herself and the rest of the group.
Makes sense.
This is obviously useful when sneaking up on enemies, but I also found it useful even in the middle of a boss fight, because attacking doesn't seem to break stealth. You can still...
Man, imagine they will add PvP. At least like arena or something in between, or, you know, just for the sake of reward, something. It's definitely there. The potential is definitely there.
Get hit, but yeah, it has its uses. Finally, we get to see the fourth character, the Recluse, aka the Spellcaster Witch. Big fan of her design, by the way.
Exactly. The design is like super sick. And the mages, ooh, that will be my main, 100%.
And I already know this is going to be Zully's main. Like any good spellcaster, the first thing she does is jump off a cliff. And this demonstrates another cool change to NightReign. No fall damage. The group then approaches an Everjail. To open it up, you'd find a stone sword key and then use it on the...
Look at the design, how she looks. Ooh, super good.
Nearby stone imps. This then unlocks the boss fight. Next, we get a look at the Recluse's unique ability, Magic.
I didn't like magic actually in Elden Ring. Like, because you're just like spamming some skills. You don't have this Dragon's Dogma feeling, or, you know, they like your spellcasting.
Cocktail. And it's probably the coolest ability in the game.
One more time, sorry?
Really unique ability, Magic Cocktail. Stone imps. This then unlocks the boss fight. Next, we had a look at the Recluse's unique ability, Magic Cocktail, and it's probably the coolest ability in the game, but it's weirdly complicated, so buckle up for a long explanation.
Okay.
So when you hit an enemy with a spell, they get marked by the corresponding element. The 4 elements are Magic, Fire, Lightning, and Holy, and in this clip, the enemy gets marked with Magic. Then, when you use her ability, it sucks out the elemental mark. In addition to restoring FP, this also fills in one of the 3 circles on the ability icon with the element you just sucked up. You repeat this 2 more times until all 3 circles are filled up, at which point using it a 4th time will expend the elemental icons and cast a special spell. Now here's the crazy part. The Magic Cocktail spell is unique and depends on the combination of elements you absorbed. So like, Magic 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 is different than Magic Magic Fire is different than Magic Fire Lightning. Since there are 4 different elements, this results in 14 different potential spells you can cast baked into just one ability. And you kind of have to remember them because they
3 on 4. Well, wait, 14. It should be 12, right? Am I wrong? It should be 12. Anyway, you saw that? That's super cool. Like, it's like Invoker in Dota 2, or it's like in Magica, you know, this game Magica when you can combine elements. That's what I'm talking about. It's a real spell casting. Oh, that's super cool. Like you can do, and it's super flashy. Whoa, man, that's interesting. I definitely, I will, okay, sold. The game sold, sorry. I definitely will main this class. It's super hard, looks like. It's super fun, looks like. And, I mean,
they have different ranges and uses. Hell, some of them don't even deal damage. Fire Holy, for example, creates a healing aura for yourself and nearby teammates. But the fun doesn't end there. Not only can you suck elemental marks out of enemies from the spells you cast, you can also suck them out of elemental damage your teammates deal. For example, here.
Okay, so you're going with your buddies, and well, like you want to spell cast, I don't know, fire something. So your buddies will have this augmentation for the weapon, like fire, and then that was do the spells, and then you use this stuff, and then you heal them. It's really cool strategy thing.
Here Wilder uses a fire attack on the boss. This applies the fire mark, and the Recluse is able to suck the fire right out. And guess what? The damage your teammates take also counts. So if a teammate gets hit by a fire attack, you can lock onto them and suck it out the same way you would for an enemy. So yeah, this kind of kicks ass, and it's super fun seeing a needlessly complex move put into a game like this. The Recluse also has a pretty useful ultimate. It's called Song of the Blood Soul, and it marks all nearby enemies with a blood icon. Hitting a marked enemy will restore HP and FP, and your teammates can hit them too for the same effect. Lastly, the Recluse has a unique dodge animation where she floats around. I like how elegant it is, and I feel like it perfectly fits her design. Next up, we see the group running through some
sold. They sold the mages. I don't know other classes because first 3 was okay, the cool class, but mage is super fun. If other 4 is even close to that, they have a good potential.
Lines. And shout out to FromSoft for sending us all this hand-picked footage, yet leaving in a T-posing miner. No hate. Genuinely funny that stuff.
Come on,
anyway,
it's in development.
You
That's
can find
fine.
mines like this during runs, but when I was playing, I felt like these were too out of the way to be worth it given the time pressure. Plus, I didn't find anything super useful inside.
Okay.
Maybe they'll change though, or maybe I missed something.
That's my point. You need to have these interesting parts to be interesting and change something like random loot or level of the loot. Otherwise people will just go on the same points of interest all the time. And still the question, like what you will get when you will finish one run.
We then get a look at a camp full of flame chariots. When I was playing with my group, we made the mistake of heading to this camp at the very start. This is not a level 1 area. These guys are tough. If only
so you need to choose the area. Some of them are level 1, some of them are level 2. So if you are have a steel balls, you can go straight to these areas. If you are not, you just need to level up, and levels will increase your attack. Okay, so you just need to be...
Only there's a way to reach the weak spot on the top of their head. Oh wait, you can use the new wall climbing ability to jump up and hit it for free. I wish I was aware of this during my play session, but hey, now we both know. Next, we see the group take on a dragon boss fight. Not much to say here, as we've seen most of this stuff already, but pay attention to the time of day. As it slowly changes to nighttime, that's your cue that you should start wrapping up whatever you're doing, because the circle begins to rapidly shrink at this point. You can see the circle closing in as they finish off the dragon. From here, what you want to do is look for the floating golden tree in the sky, as that's the point where the circle will close in. Eventually, the ring of fire reaches its smallest size, and essentially forms an arena. This is where you'll fight the first major boss. Before the boss fight, a small group of enemies will spawn in. This serves serves as both a warm-up for the fight and a teaser for which boss you're about to see. In this case, it's a pack of demi-humans. So fittingly, the boss fight is a demi-human queen and a demi-human swordsman. Something I appreciate about NightReign is that these fights seem specifically designed for multiplayer, something we don't typically see in FromSoft games. In this case, it's due to there being 2 bosses at once, but I also encountered other bosses that are better examples of this. One of those bosses was the Centipede Demon from Dark Souls 1. During the fight, you can chop off its centipede limbs, but this forms an additional hazard as the severed limb keeps fighting.
So it is, they made great job. I don't know is it great or not, but still they didn't throw the, okay, we have these bosses, let's go. They changed them for the multiplayer, and also they took other bosses from other series, like other games from the franchise.
This is perfect for a group.
And from the game developer perspective, this is really hard to do, man. Like to change all mechanics, it's basically to redo the boss. You just have some animations and the skeleton and skin textures and all this stuff. But to change the gameplay,
battle. Also, in case you're curious, its moveset seemed to modify from Dark Souls, so it wasn't like FromSoft just ported the boss into Elden Ring without making changes.
Good.
I don't know exactly what those changes were, but I could tell that it felt different than Dark Souls. Another modified nighttime boss we encountered was Morgott. He was mostly similar to his appearance in Elden Ring, but he had a few new moves, including this insane AoE blood slash that would hit the whole group and nearly one-shot us. He also had new dagger throwing combos and just seemed more aggressive.
The question is it hard? Because Elden Ring was pretty hard. They need to simplify it, but to the balance. If it will be super complicated, people will drop it, right? And if it will be simple, people will drop it as well. So the balance here, the interesting part, it should be really, really balanced.
Overall, if FromSoft is going to rely on reusing bosses, I appreciate that these changes make it feel new-ish and suited for co-op.
Good.
It's a shame they didn't seem to make any meaningful changes to the demi-human boss fight, but oh well. Anyway, after completing the fight, you get the message Night Repulsed. The boss also drops a purple soul, and upon interacting with it, you get a choice between 3 different upgrades for your character. This is basically how it works when killing mini-bosses too, but the upgrade from this main boss is more substantial. Sometimes these upgrades operate purely in the background, like extra spell duration, but my group occasionally encountered some more interesting upgrades. One time, one of my teammates got an upgrade that created lightning bolts whenever he dodged. Another one he found cast fire.
So it's like real roguelike. That's cool. It's not like the, when you have 15,000 of the axes flying around, it's more substantial. It's more like minimalistic, we'll say. But still, when you dodge the lightning shot, that's good.
Fireballs whenever he walked.
Cool.
And I do mean walked. Like, slightly tilting the left stick was the only way to trigger it. While the walking one wasn't super useful, both of these upgrades were cool because they weren't just background percentage buffs to stats. They were noticeable abilities that had the potential to shift our playstyle, at least a little bit. After everyone chooses an upgrade, fog rolls in and the Ring of Fire fully recedes. From there, Day 2 begins, and you get to continue exploring the map to get stronger before Night 2. Worth noting is that enemies and bosses defeated during Day 1 don't respawn, so it's a good idea to keep track of where you've already been. So yeah, the gameplay loop you've seen...
Look at that. What is that? It's like the huge giant there.
Don't respawn, so it's a good idea to keep track of where you've already been. So yeah, the gameplay loop you've seen repeats for Day 2, and if you survive the Night 2 boss, you're immediately taken to the Night Lord on Day 3. As such, Day 3 consists of just this boss fight with no exploration phase. You progress to Day 3 by walking along a pathway to a door.
Okay, so you have 2 days, like to develop your weapons or whatever, and then you just go to the boss, which is cool because 3 days, the whole days, it will be too much. So it's like 10 to 15 minutes, and then the boss. Cool, 30 minutes, run.
That reminds me a lot of the area and door at the end of Shadow of the Erdtree. The Night Lord of the demo was Gladius, a 3-headed dog
just
monster
arena.
that swings around a giant sword on a chain.
Shit.
This guy is no joke. Also, for those of you who haven't played all the Soulsborne games, this is in fact the first boss that's completely unique to NightReign, and I suspect the other Night Lords will be completely new as well.
So the bosses are new, the completely new bosses. That's good, and they can add more and more of them. That's okay.
This guy also has a pretty devastating grab attack, so I recommend not getting hit by it. During the fight, one of Wilder's teammates goes down, and here they showcase the ability to revive teammates with ranged weapons like bows. This is surprisingly useful, and it might be worth holding on to your ranged weapon just for situations like this.
Okay.
Speaking of ranged weapons, you don't have to worry about ammo in this game. It's unlimited. Around the halfway point, the boss explodes into 3 fireballs, and then reforms as 3 separate dogs. This is probably the toughest part of the fight, and I think the best strategy is to try to take on each of them one by one. When I talked to Vadi after the event, He told me he just ran away until they reformed into one body. So that might be an even better strat, even if it's boring. Either way, this is NightReign's best example so far of a boss designed for 3 people, and I hope the rest of the Night Lords have similar co-op mechanics. And then win or lose, that's the end of the run. Okay, that's all the footage I got, but there are still a few things they didn't include footage of that I think are worth mentioning. First, you can find spectral merchant.
Okay, so let's see if he'll give us something interesting, or it will be just, the small pieces which are too detailed for us, but let's see a little bit.
Across the map. Merchants sell a variety of consumables and weapons,
Okay.
but given how important leveling is, we often didn't have enough runes to spare. Like, for example, they would sometimes sell a legendary weapon for 40,000 runes, which, for this game, is quite a bit. They also seem to always sell a pouch that gives you 1 extra consumable slot for the rest of the run. Next to each merchant is an anvil, which you can use to upgrade your weapons.
Cool.
To upgrade a weapon, you need to find a smithing stone of the corresponding rarity.
Still, he didn't answer the main question of this game. Why you do these runs? Like, what will you get after the runs? Upgrading weapons, finding plants, puzzle. Okay, let's click through them.
When exploring, you can find plants like roa fruit scattered around sometimes. In Elden Ring, this is a crafting material, but that's not a thing in NightReign, so instead they just restore a bit of health right when you pick them up. There are similar blue plants that...
Where's puzzle?
There are also mage towers, just like Elden Ring. You know the ones with the little puzzles where you gotta find the spectral turtles? Those are here too. Though when we found one, we kind of just hit the statue at the front and it opened up immediately. So it's unclear to me if there's more to unlocking them in the full game. But yeah, they have loot inside. Another thing you can sometimes find is a glowing red body on the ground, which is the location that someone else failed to run. If you interact with the body, some loot pops out, and I assume it corresponds with whatever weapons they had at the time they died. Sometimes you'll come across
That's actually a cool mechanic. Okay.
weird hazards during your runs. One time, my group found a big purple bubble floating across the sky, and when we approached it, a swarm of giant ants poured out. I don't totally remember how this played out, but I think we got a mini-boss reward after defeating them. You can also get invaded by bosses sometimes. This sadly didn't happen to my group, but I was talking with the others who had Margit invade them out of nowhere. What's cool about this is that can happen at inconvenient times, like when...
Imagine invasion from the player. But that's good. It means that they have ant events, invasion from the bosses, right? What is that?
I could be wrong, but I don't think there's a maximum range for receiving runes from killed enemies. You can see an example of this in the first clip of the Duchess, where she receives runes from her teammates killing enemies all the way over at the fort. This is interesting to me because it leaves the door open for strategies where you might want to split up. Like, imagine splitting up and clearing 3 camps at the same time. That might be faster than doing it together. However, one reason not to do this is because of how shared rewards for mini-bosses work. Killing a mini-boss gives each player their own reward, but only if they approach the purple soul that it leaves behind. We also found a reinforced chest, which functioned in a similar way and let each player claim a reward from it separately. Another tip, normally when you get downed, your teammates... Go over some details from the hub area too. Just like Elden Ring,
So we have a hub area.
the round table hold is the hub. To begin a run, you approach the table and select the Night Lord you want to hunt. It's vaguely similar to selecting a monster to hunt in Monster Hunter.
Okay.
The game then immediately puts you into matchmaking to find a group to play with, but you can also use passwords just like Elden Ring to play with friends. The hub is also populated by all of the playable characters, minus whatever character you're currently controlling. They all just stand around and say hello in the demo, but I'm guessing the full game will have them giving you bits of their story between runs in a similar fashion to Hades. There's also a sparring ground area and an outside area connected to the round table hold. Here you can test out every weapon in the game and set your character level from 1 to 15,
That's cool.
which I assume is the max.
That's cool.
This is neat, and I took advantage of this during my play session to test out how damage scaling worked. So stats like strength and dexterity are hidden.
Okay, that's not too detailed. Okay, relics.
The main component of the hub is the relic altar. Here you can equip relics between runs, and each of these gives you some sort of bonus or new ability. You can equip up to 3 per character, but they're color-coded, and the relic slots are color-coded too. For example, one character might have 2 red slots and 1 blue slot, and that means you're only allowed to equip 2 red relics and 1 blue relic. I believe there's 3 or 4 different relic colors. What do these relics do? Well, a lot of them are sort of boring stat bonuses, like +4 strength or extra damage with X weapon. But a few of them are actually interesting, as they can change up how you play. My favorite was the relic that enables group healing whenever you drink from your flask. This is straight out of the Elden Ring Reforged mod I played last year. I loved it then, and I love it now because it adds a
Okay, some kind of progression with relics.
board. That's about all I found in the hub, but I believe they gave hints that there would be more NPCs in the full game, such as a shop where you can buy and sell relics using a special currency earned after each run. And they also said
Okay, so after each run we have special currency and we can buy these permanent passive relics, right? It's not enough still.
something about being able to unlock skins for each character.
And then we buy skins. Okay, but we need some progression. If it's no progression only for the skins,
which I assume are just cosmetic. Okay, that about does it for details on the content of the game. So let's talk a bit about the preview event itself that I attended in Vegas. So the event was unfortunately a shit show in which people were constantly disconnecting due to network issues. So it might be a non-issue under normal gameplay conditions. Despite these tech issues, I do feel like we saw pretty much everything in the demo.
Okay, not interesting.
I think US Bandai messed up badly, and I'd be kind of pissed if I was FromSoft. Aside from that though, I did have fun. And while I think most people would have fun if they were in my shoes and got to play a co-op game with Lobos and Oro, I do think FromSoft has something here if I was able to find the fun even in the worst of circumstances.
Okay.
Ultimately, I think this game will be a commercial success. The fun is there and it has Elden Ring's branding. Obviously, it won't reach anywhere near Elden Ring's success, but it doesn't have to, because my guess is that it only cost a fraction of Elden Ring's budget to develop.
Yeah, I mean, they have a lot of assets. They need to work a lot on the gameplay and the mechanics and stuff. It's a lot of money, but it's a fraction from the full game development.
And of course it did. 90% of this game is just Elden Ring. And like I mentioned earlier, it feels more like an ambitious fan mod than a standalone product. On that note, I think it's worth addressing the discourse surrounding this game. When NightReign was first announced, there was naturally a lot of excitement, but there was also by far the most cynicism.
Okay, not interesting.
Now, even though I understand all of this, I'm not quite that cynical. Basically, I can appreciate that FromSoft wants to make a weird spin-off game on a smaller budget. So is this a complete success? I'm honestly not sure yet. I'm somewhat optimistic, but for me,
Not interesting. What? The maps. Map changed between... Okay, let's... Cool. Let's...
starters, it's unclear to me how much the map will change between runs. For this demo, as far as I could tell, it didn't change at all.
Nah.
We'd start at one of two locations, but then that was it. All the points of interest were in the same spot, and we'd fight the same enemies and bosses. Now, of course, I do recognize that this is almost certainly just for the demo, and that the full game will meaningfully remix the map between runs, but I need to see that for myself before I vouch for this game.
Okay.
When I asked the Bandai representatives if they could clarify how the map would change between runs, or if there was more than one map, they were pretty cagey. They did talk about how swamps and volcanoes could drastically change things up, and the initial reveal trailer did seem to show a bit of this off, but until I see it for myself, it's unclear how meaningful these changes will be.
Sure.
That being said, I'm reasonably optimistic, and if I had to guess, I think the map will change a lot based off which Night Lord you select before each run. The other concern I have is just the variety in builds between runs. Due to the nature of most upgrades being small passive boosts, the way you start and end each run might be a little too similar. To put it another way, you know how in a game like Hades, you get multiple gameplay defining upgrades?
Yeah, so... No build variety, no progression. You will start all the time almost the same, and then you progress through the passives and you'll get some additional stuff. The only thing that you can change is relics by this currency after you finish the last boss, and skins. That's not enough. Like, he's saying that the game is fun. That's really good. That's the main thing, right? So it could be successful, but it will be boring after a month if they will not add some progression system or something.
Upgrades that massively shift your build or playstyle.
Because one more time, they don't have PvP. If it will be PvP also included, then it's a different story.
That part of the game is inherently less present in NightReign. Sure, you'll find a weapon that gives plus 9% damage when two-handing, but in terms of moment-to-moment gameplay, having or not having that boost isn't going to change how you play.
Yeah.
The same can be said about the whole leveling system. Yes, leveling up lets you deal more damage, but the way you play doesn't shift between level 1 and level 2. And as someone who's played a lot of action roguelikes, this is a notable absence. Now, to be fair, not all upgrades are like this. Stuff like the passive that gives you a lightning attack when you dodge, or the relic that gives you group healing are meaningful changes and can noticeably impact a run. So I really hope the full game has more of that. And thinking about this issue some more, we shouldn't ignore all the weapons and spells. Elden Ring might actually be a fantastic game to turn to a roguelike, if only for the variety of weapons and spells already built into the game. There are over 400 weapons and over 200 spells in Elden Ring.
That's why I'm telling you that that's good, that they're trying to make something else from this game. 400 weapons. And all the weapons in this game are different, with different animations and mechanics.
And the average Elden Ring player probably only used like less than 5% of them. But in a game where you have to use what you find and be kind of scrappy over short, repeated runs, suddenly there's an opportunity to engage with all these weapons and spells
That's
you
cool.
probably overlooked. Plus, Elden Ring has a shitload of different enemies and bosses. So again, they have a deep well to draw from.
That's actually really cool, because players who played Elden Ring, they actually saw not all of the content. They saw 15% or 20% of the content, and now they can reuse it, and it will be fun for the players because they didn't, saw So that's cool idea.
And that's on top of them bringing back bosses from past Dark Souls games. Yes, this all relies entirely on recycled content, but that doesn't change the fact that it gives FromSoft a lot to work with in terms of variety.
Okay.
So yeah, maybe the leveling and passives being kind of boring is actually fine within the context of the rest of the game. Also, even if the player builds are limited when compared to other roguelikes, I think there's still a lot of potential for emerging gameplay when you factor in the rest of the gameplay systems, like the synergies between different character abilities, or unexpected hazards like bosses invading you in the middle of a fight. There's also a lot to be said about the map itself. It's deeply intertwined with all the other systems. Figuring out the best way to move around the map under time pressure is engaging, and simply where and when you get yourself into a fight can lead to different outcomes. So you like the game? I thought you weren't sure. Pine, you're confusing me. Let me put it like this. As a massive fan of FromSoft, Souls-likes, and the action roguelike
She's a
genre,
fanboy.
I'm in the dead center of the Venn diagram of the potential audience for this game. I had fun playing it, and I think, at worst,
Okay.
NightReign. It's a weird game, and I don't know how the general public is going to react to it. If I had to guess, I'd say it'll be reasonably well liked, but it's probably not going to blow anyone's mind. Like I said though, I think the worst case is I get to have fun with my friends for a couple weekends. So I'm looking forward.
So, okay. Thank you for this guy. I think he did a really great job. What I think this game is, it's a cool game. It looks like it's a really cool game. And all these different weapons and all of the different bosses and all encounters and stuff, it will be really, really fun. The first question is why we will do these runs, otherwise, like, except of just fun, because otherwise it will be just 2 weekends with the friends. That's not good. Balance, it should be really good balance. Otherwise, you know, if it will be super hard, people will not play it. And super simple, also people will not play it. They need to add additional layer of the progression after you kill the last boss, and maybe of the building system for the characters, something like that. Like you need to progress, you need to feel the progression with the character, or add PvP or something. I doubt that they will do. Or maybe they will say, you know what, we are adding PvP, and everybody will be like, yeah, and it will be different game. I doubt that they will do that. So we need more layers of progression and more layers of the content. Why we do that, all these runs. And then it could be interesting. Definitely will try it. Don't know if it will be main game on my channel or something. Don't look like. I'm more about the long-term games like MMORPGs. But we will try it for some time. The mage looks sick. And that's all. That's all, I think. Thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe to the channel. Please subscribe to the Iron Pineapple. This guy did a really great job. And if you want me to play this game, you know, comment below, because it could be something interesting. It was PLK. Subscribe, like, dislike, do whatever you want, guys. I will see you next time. Bye.